Okay, I think we're good. All right. So, like I was saying, regression. Okay. So before I even start regression, I'm actually going to do a refresher course on high school mathematics. Okay, because this is kind of essential to understand how to do the calculations for this learning. So I'm going to just create a new whiteboard. All right, and I'm going to take you through straight lines, what's covered in high school mathematics. All right, so what, if you don't remember, this is a refresher, you would have a y-axis, okay, and then you would have you would have an x. Okay, the x-axis is generally the horizontal axis. Right, so this is your x and this is your y. All right, now a straight line would be plotted within these x and y axes. Okay, so for a second we'll just ignore the negative part. There's a negative region here, and we're just going to ignore that for now. All right, so we have one line. I'm going to use two different colors here to kind of distinguish the lines. So we have a red line, and I'm going to draw it like this, that, and then we have another line. Wait, sorry, let me go back. Yeah. Then we have another line, green. Oops, sorry. The next line. Second, so it's a different color. Red. There we go. Yeah. Oh, and yeah. There. That's it. I'm just gonna check the chat if there's any. Oops. No comments. Anyone's can't see anything. Okay, but there's no messages, so I just assume what page is learning will start on. Jay, I'm not really sure, and I think you're asking about the textbook. I don't have that with me at the moment. Maybe one of the students in the chat can tell you that. But it's regression and correlation analysis, linear regression and correlation analysis. All right, so these are two lines, okay? Now, in mathematics, to describe a circle, okay? So if you had a circle, and I know I'm going a bit off topic here, but there's a reason for it. You had a circle here, and then you had another circle, let's say here, it's the same color. Second, yeah, let's say a bigger circle. The only thing you need to describe the circle, the only thing that you need to get its circumference, to get its area, etc., is the radius. Okay, if you just knew the radius, you could describe all the characteristics of the circle, and that would tell you what differentiates this circle on the bottom to this circle. All right, and that's just the radius. So for a circle, you only need one measure to describe it, and that's the radius. However, for a line, there are two measures that you need. Okay, there's two things or two characteristics of a line that makes it unique. Okay, one is the slope. I'm going to change the color for my writing. Okay, you need the slope. And what do I mean by slope? Okay, slope is how steep the line is. So this line has a higher slope versus this line. Okay, because this one is a lot more. It's a lot steeper. So you need the slope, which describes the steepness of the slope. And you can see this line has a much steeper slope than the green line. All right. All right. So you need the slope. That's the one thing you need. And there's generally mathematical symbols that are represented. It's in high school math, we generally let the let's say M represented. Okay, but now in this course, we just change the notation. Instead of M, it's going to be B, right? But it's just notation. But you just need to know that that is the slope, right? So you just need the slope. That's the one characteristic, and the second characteristic is the y-intercept. And if you have these two things, then you could fully describe any of these lines, okay? And for the y-intercept region, in high school, we would use the symbol C, but in this course, it'll be represented by A, okay? I know it might be a bit frustrating, but it's just notation. And the reason why I'm telling you it's B and A is because your calculator is going to show you B and A, not M and C, but so you just need to know what they represent. Okay, so this line, right? So this line here, you can see it intercepts the axis here, whereas the red line intercepts at a higher y value. So this line could, the equation of this line, what defines this line, would be y, and I'm going to make up a slope, okay? I'm just going to say it's 10, right? X plus the y-intercept. And the y-intercept here, let's give it a value. We'll make up a value. Let's say it's 3. This line would be y equals, it will be a lower slope because you can see it's not as steep as the red line. So let's just make up a value. Let's say it's 3x. And the intercept would be lower than the red line because it's sitting here as opposed to here. So let's just say it's 1. All right. And if you have these two values, then you have everything you need to describe the line. All right. And if you wanted any point in the line, so let's say this red line, if I wanted to know for an x value of, let's say 3, right? For an x value of 3, what is the y value on this line? What is the value on this line where x is 3? And if you wanted that value, all you need to do is you plug in this 3 into the x and you get it. So it'll be y equals 10 into 3, because I'm substituting the x. The 3 into the x plus 3. If you work that out, you'll get 33. So that's the value that's at this point in the line. Okay, let me stop and go back to the chat if there's any questions. It's very important that you understand that because you need to do this for this learning unit. So all good? Everyone okay with what I explained so far? That's kind of a refresher of high school maths. Someone is tell me all okay, or you're not sure what something. Okay, I'll repeat. Okay, so going back to this whiteboard, Sinead, maybe it would help if you tell me which part you want me to go back in. So let me just kind of recap everything, right? And tell me if anything you don't understand specifically. All right, so you have two different lines here. Okay, you have two lines, the green line, right, and the red line. Okay, now there's two things to describe any line. Okay, and you need to be able to describe it in order to differentiate one line from the next. It's not good enough to just say, oh, that line is red and that line is green. There has to be some mathematical way to differentiate them. And the way we differentiate them, right, is by specifying what the slope is and what the intercept is, right? You need two things to describe a line, okay? Just like how we would use a radius to describe a circle, right? Or just think about us, for instance. If we didn't have to look at visually look at each other, what would define us is our ID number. If we just had the ID number, then that will differentiate us from the next person. Now, for a line, you need two things to differentiate them. You need the slope and you need the y-intercept. The slope tells you how steep the line is. So this line is a lot steeper versus this line. Okay, that's what the slope tells us. So for the red line, you can see it's a lot steeper. So that's why its slope, the value in front of x, is a lot higher than the value in front of x for the green line. It's 10 versus 3. So if we have the slope, the next thing you need to differentiate the line is where does it intersect the y-axis. Now the green line intersects the y-axis here. We made up a value of say 1. Okay. For the red line, it's a higher value because the y increases as you go up. So here, the value is 3. So that's your y-intercept. The red line, that's your y-intercept for the green line. If you have these two things, then you have everything you need to specify the line. Now, once you have a line, the useful thing about having a line, so let's just look at the red line. 10x plus 3. Once you have a line, I'm going to erase the green line just not to make it too cluttered. If you wanted to know any point on this line, right, you need to just specify what x value you want to know where that value is on the line. So for instance, I want to know what this point is. All I need to tell this line is the x value here, right, let's give it an x value of 1. Right? If I just say x is equal to 1 and basically pass that information to this line, then I need to know what is the value on this line for x equals to 1. How you determine this value is you simply just substitute 1 into this equation, right? And if you do that, you'll have 10 into 1 plus 3, and that gives you 13. So that means that this value on the line here is 13. That's the y value. Okay, does that make sense? No worries, no problem. That's why I did this refresher. Okay, all good? All right, so now let's get back to the content of the learning unit, right? All right, now for this learning unit, how equations of lines come into play is we use it to estimate something we're interested in. So for instance, let's look at this real world example. You would be given 2 columns of data, all right? You'd be told this is look at it. Get to that. These are the 2 columns. You're not given everything on the right here. Okay, you're not given that. You're only given these 2 lines. Right? Now you're told these are the 2 measures that you have: experience in months. And what is the experience in months? It's basically it's telling you that these people have amount of months of experience in their job, right? So let's just say all of them work for the same company, all right? And Jill has 52 months of experience, and that's her salary, 381,000 rands. Okay, the salary is in thousands. Now Sarah has 63 months of experience, and her salary is 442,000 rands. So intuitively, you would see that the more experience you have, the higher you could demand for salary, right? That's the relation which you would expect. Okay, so my question to you is, which column influences the other column? And what I mean by that, what I'm asking is, does your experience affect your salary, or does your salary affect your experience? Which way makes sense to you? Right? So the question is option 1, does experience affect salary? And then 2 is the opposite way. I'm not going to write it, but you just need to know that. So can you put it in the chat which option you think is correct? Does experience affect salary, or does salary affect experience? Do you think it's 1, or do you think it's 2? If you could please just quickly put that in the chat. I need you to actually make an attempt at this, because this is actually quite important. Okay, do you think option 1 is correct, or do you think option 2 is correct? Option 2, remember, is salary affecting experience. All right, good. I think everyone's in agreement of this. Okay, exactly. Your experience is what dictates your salary. All right, and why that's important is because that'll tell you which is your x and which is your y variable. All right. So in other words, experience is your x, the variable that affects the other variable. Okay, that's your x. So x is your experience, right? And your y would have to be the other one. That's your salary. Now there's names given to these x and y, all right? Your x is your independent variable. So in our case, our independent variable is experience. Okay, that's your independent variable. And then the other would be your dependent. Why we call it the dependent? Because it depends on X, not the other way around. Okay, now in the exam, assignment, you won't be told what X and Y is. Sometimes, in a very rare case, you are. Otherwise, you have to use your intuition to determine, just like what you did now. That's why you had to make an attempt at this in the chat. Okay, make sure you understand that. Okay, so I'm just going to erase this, and we're going to move on. So now that we know it's that, I'm going to actually put the labels there so we know which is which. And it's important because we also need to input the X and Y into our calculator. So if you mix them up, then everything goes wrong. All right? Okay, so this is our X, and this is your Y. Right? Let me see anything. Any questions in the chat? Okay, good, good. All right. So now that you know that that is your X and Y, right? Now we're going to plot this data. If the question asks you to do a scatter plot, basically all you're doing is you're going through each row. You're going to look at the first point here. Right? Your X is 52, right? And let's change this. Your X is 52, and your Y is 381. So I'm going to draw this a bit. Let me do something here. Let's just look at this first point here. So that first point, when X is 52, there's it in the graph here. There's your X-axis. This is your months in experience, and your Y is your annual salary. So when X is 52 and your Y is about 381, that's the blue dot that you see here. The next point is 63 and 442. So that's the next blue dot. And so on and so on. So we basically plotted all the dots, the blue dots, and that's your scatter plot. Now what we're trying to do here, right, is we're trying to fit a line. We're trying to get a line to fit this data. Okay. Now the thing is, this line could be subjective. You could tell me, I don't think the red line is the best line. Right? You may say, I think this line here, let's do a different color. You may say, I think this line here is the best line to fit this data. Okay. And we could go on and on and on about it. Okay. So in order to make it subjective, there is a way to actually determine which is the best line that would fit this data. All right. And remember what we did earlier, why we started the session with the equations of line, is because in order to determine what is the best line, you just need two things to specify that line, right? You need the slope, you need the intercept. And this here, this B1 equals to B, this is your slope. This is your M. Okay? And this is your intercept. So if you want to know what is the slope and the intercept for the best line, all you need to do is you need to use this formula that you see here, right? And that's what we're going to do. Okay, so we're going to work out the slope of the line that fits the data the best. Okay, and you can see this equation has a lot of terms in it. Right? So we're going to go through it. Our calculator will do a lot of the heavy work. Okay, now I'm going to show you the long method to get the slope. Okay, so the slope is B, and the equation, I'll just write it a bit bigger for you. It's N, okay, into sum X, Y minus sum X times sum Y all over N into sum X squared minus sum X whole squared. Right, so let's just start going through each one. Right, in order to do this, I need to create the columns on the right of this. So this is what's given to us. Everything on the right is not given to us. Okay, so the next column we need to create is X squared, X to the power 2. Right, and that's basically taking each X value. So this is 52. All we do is say 52 raised to the power of 2, or 52 times 2, it's the same thing. That gives me 2704. The next row I do the same thing. It's 63 raised to the power 2, and I get 3969, and so on and so on. When I do that, I get the total of that column. I add up all the values, and I get 32,252. The next column I'm going to get is x times y. X times, I'm going to use the dot for y. Sorry, the dot for the multiplication, x dot y. And that's basically taking your x value, 52, and multiplying it by your y value, which is 381. So 52 times 381 gives me 19,812, gives me this value. And I do that for each row, going all the way down, right? And then I total that column just like I did in the column before, and I get a total of 243,305. So why I'm doing this is because each total in this column, so for this total here, this total is this here. It's the sum of all your x squared value. And that's 32,252. And that is what's needed here, the equation. That's why I've created this column. That's why I'm doing the totals. All right. The last column I need is y squared. Y to the power of 2. And that's just taking each y value, 381, raised to the power of 2. And that gives me 145,161. I do that for everything, and then I get the total of the bottom. So my sum xy, right, is the sum of this column here, which is 243,305. Right? And then sum y squared is equal to 1840658. Right? Okay. In these columns here, this column here, that's my sum x. So my sum x, I'll write it here. Sum x, the total of all my x's is 472. And then the sum y, the sum of all my y's is this column here, 3550. All right. Now I've done all the totals for you. So since you have your calculator, what I want you to do is you need to substitute all the values into this equation. Add all of them into the equation and get the value of p. And some of you may ask, okay, what is n? N is simply how many rows do you have in this table? How many data points? So if you count the number of rows, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 data points. So your n is 7. All right, you have all the values you need to plug into the equation. I want you to do that and then write the answer for B in the chat. Okay, so your n is 7, right? I'm going to plug all the values that you need to plug into this equation, and I want you to write the answer in the chat. I want to see what you get because I'm testing if you know how to use your calculator efficiently and correctly, and also how to interpret the terms in this equation. If there's any questions before I'm going to go back to the board. Right, so you need to put the value in the equation and write the answer in the chat. Give you a minute and continue. Sure, no problem. Okay, so I'll write out what you should be putting in your calculator. Okay, in your calculator you should be typing on this. I'm gonna make some space on the board. Yeah, so you got, I'm just substituting all the values in this equation. So n is 7, 7 into sum xy, which is 243,305, minus sum x, which is 472, times sum y, which is 3550, all divided by 7 into sum x squared, which is 32252, minus, now this term, don't confuse this with this, they're not the same, okay? This is your sum x, which is this. Yeah, this is your 472 raised to the power 2. That's what you should put in your calculator. Don't know if any of you have done it, but if you've done it, you should get an answer of 9.24 rounded up to decimal places. It's about 9.239 something, but this is it rounded to 2 places. Let's check the chat. Okay, I'm just going to assume everyone's okay with this. You do need to do this as an exercise, okay? So please practice this, all right? So this is the long way to get the slope, all right? Okay, this is the long way to get it. And you need to know this because the question could be 3 marks for just calculating the slope, right? If it's 3 marks, then you can't do the shortcut, which is what I'm going to show you now, right? You have to do it the long way, like what I showed you now, okay? It's very important that you understand how to do it in the long method. All right, so now we've worked out the slope. Now let me show you how to do it with the shortcut, okay? And you can use the shortcut to just kind of sense check that you got the right answer. Okay, to do this, you need to use your calculator, and you're going to use the regression function, right? So with your calculator, what you're going to do is, right, you're going to press mode, right? You're going to choose the stat option. Okay, so with your calculator, I'm going to erase the board now. Second. Right. So with your calculator, you press mode, you're going to choose the stat option. Now, previously you would have chosen option 1, but today you're going to choose option 2, which is a plus bx. That's the line one. You're going to choose this option, right? And your calculator should be option 2, but if it's another number, just select that number. But a plus bx is what you want to choose. And you're going to press that, and then you'll see a column of x's, column of y's, and you'll even see a frequency. You can ignore the frequency. You don't need to worry about entering anything for that. But for these 2 columns, you need to capture your x values. So everything in this column except the totals. Don't worry about the totals. Just capture 52 all the way to 77 for x, right? And then for y, you capture 381 all the way to 610. All right, so do that. You need to do that now because I'm going to show you how to use the regression function. So you need to capture the data in your calculator. So I'll give you a few minutes just to capture the data in your calculator. If any of you have finished, could you just put a message in the chat to say done? So I have an idea of how many of you have completed that. Okay, so you just need to capture the x and the y values, and then put a message in the chat to say you're done. Oh, thank you. Go back to the board. All right. So once you've captured all the data, right, we're gonna use the calculator to actually get the slope first. Okay, and it's gonna be so quick. You know, it's so much easier than actually doing it the long way. But unfortunately, you do need to know how to do it the long way, because if they're giving you like 3 marks for it, you need to show the examiner that you can do it the long way. All right. So once you capture the data, you can press AC. All right. That's fine. If you press AC, you can even press the on button. It's fine. All right. You're gonna press Shift. Okay. So Shift. Then you're gonna press the button 1. Right. Then you will see there's a couple of options there. You're going to choose the option that says REG, regression. Whatever number is next to that, that's what you select. And there you will see an option to select either A or B, right? And remember, we want the slope, okay? The slope is B. If you look at this equation here, it's saying B is equal to that. So you're going to select B, whatever number that is. If it's option 2, you press 2, and then you press equals 2. And you'll see you'll get this value here. That's the shortcut to get the slope. All right. Okay. Check in the chat. Everyone's good. Good. All right. So that's the shortcut to get B. If you wanted the intercept, right, you can do it the same way. Right. Remember, for the intercept, we're looking for A. Right now we want A. We've already found B. Let's find A. Same process. You're gonna press Shift. Right. Press Shift 1. Right. Then reg or regression, and then select A. And then write down what you get for A in the chat. Tell me what you get for the intercept. Pretty easy. You can round it to 2 decimal places. Very good. Excellent. Everyone following? So your intercept is minus 115.89. All right. So let's make some space on the board now. Okay, so now you know how to get the slope and intercept using the long method and the short method. Okay. Hope you're comfortable with that. So let's just write it out. Yeah. So using the shortcut, we found A is equal to minus 115.89. We'll round it to 2 decimal places. It should be fine. All right. If you had to do A in the long method, you would use this equation here. Right? The same process we did earlier. You just find your sum y. Your B1 is what you found from this. That's your slope, right? And then your sum x is your sum x. You just substitute all the values into the equation, right? And you can get A. And then you'll get back to the same value here. You should get back to the same value. If you don't, then you made an error somewhere. Okay, that's the long method. All right, so now we got our A and B. The next step is to write the equation of the line, this red line, the best fit line. The equation of it, we say y equals the slope, which is 9.24x. Remember, the slope is always multiplied by x, 9.24x, plus your A value, which is minus 115.89. So I'll write like plus minus 115.89. Like that. Okay? That's the equation of the line. To be absolutely correct, we generally don't say y, we say y hat. I'll tell you why in a second why we say that. Because the y hat is used to estimate what the salary is given any months of experience. Why did we go through all this effort to create this line? The power of this line is that if we give it any a month of experience, it'll make an estimate of what the salary for that person should be. So say, if you look at this table that we have, right, we don't have anyone who has 68 months of experience. We have 63, yes, we have 67, 66, but nothing with 68. So if someone comes along to this company with 68 months of experience, we need to be able to estimate what salary to maybe offer this person. And that's where we would use this line. This line helps us to do that. So let's say we want to estimate what the salary should be for someone with 68 months of experience. That is, your x equals to 68. Well, then all we need to do is we plug in 68 into this formula, and that'll give us an estimate of the salary. So let's do that. Okay, so we're going to say y hat equals 9.24 into, in other words, times 68 minus 115.89. If you work this out in your calculator, you'll get a value of, I think it's about 512.43, rounded up. 512, 2.43. Right, now remember, the salary is in thousands. Okay, so that means someone with 68 months of experience should get a salary of 512.43 times 1,000. So that's 512.41430. All I did is I multiply this by 1,000. Okay, you multiply by 1,000 and you'll get this. So this is the salary we should offer this person that has 68 months of experience. Does that make sense, everyone? Everyone good? Oh, all right. So that's.
I'm so sorry. I have one question again.
Sure, no problem.
Can you go back to the board, please?
Yeah.
Okay. So there we put the annual salary, and then you put that 512, 430. Are you going to times that by 12 to get it annually, or do we leave it as is?
No, you just leave it as is.
Okay.
Yeah. If the Y value says annual, there's no need to actually make it monthly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem. But it's a good question. Very good question. All right. So that's how we use it to estimate values. All right. So now the next thing we're going to talk about is correlation. All right. Now I'll explain that in a second. Space on the board. Okay, correlation is this nasty looking formula here, right? You don't need to memorize any of these formulas, okay? Just remember that. They're all in your formula sheet. So correlation is represented by R, right? The letter R. But to get it, you have to use this formula here, right? You have all the values to substitute into this equation. You have it from this table here, all right? And you can just plug it in, and then you can get your correlation. Okay, but we're not going to do it the long way right now. We're just going to do it with a shortcut using our calculator. And then I'm going to show you what it actually means and how we interpret it. Okay, so let me show you how to get the value first. So let's say R equals to, we're going to use our calculator, right? All you're going to do is you're going to press Shift. I'll write it down. Follow. It's a very similar process like how we've got the slope. You'll press Shift, then you'll press 1, REG, and then you'll see the option for R. Right? In my calculator, I think it's option 3. So if you can just get it and write it in the chat, see what value you get. What value do you get for R? Try and round it to 4 decimals. Just round it to 4 decimals. Yep, very good. 949 is excellent. Very good. You get a value of 0.9496. Okay, so, oh, good, we've calculated, but what does it mean physically? Okay, so this is what correlation is, let's say I'm going to create two sets of data to kind of give you an idea. Let's say first case is that we had this. So y-axis or x-axis, same thing here. Okay, now for the graph on the left, let's say we're doing the same thing. Okay, we've got salary experience here, and experience here, and we're both trying to see the effect on salary. So here we got the y-axis salary, salary. Now let's say in the first case, in this graph on the left, when we got the data and we had a lot of data. So let's say we start plotting the data, 2 points, plotting it like this. And this is kind of what we get. Now, on the right plot, however, when for a different data set, let's say we were looking at a different company, we found that when you plot the points, it's like this. Like that. Now, can you see for this plot here on the left, what's happening is this person has more experience than this person. This person here has the most amount of experience because he's on the far right than this person here. However, their salary doesn't change too much. You see that? It doesn't have an effect. So no matter how much you increase the experience, the salary doesn't change too much. Okay, it stays around the same region here. So it's almost to say that experience doesn't really influence salary in this graph. But on the graph on the right, with this company, you can clearly see that as you increase your experience, as you move to the right, as your experience increase, your salary is also going up. And you can very easily see that this pattern. So what's happening? What we're saying here your correlation, your R, it's very close to 0. It's not exactly 0, but it's quite close. We'll make up a value. Let's say it's 0.2. Right? 0.2. Here, your R value is probably something over 0.8. So here, it's very high, 0.8. So this has a much stronger correlation than here, because your data is almost random. What it's saying is that your experience doesn't really influence the salary too much. Does everyone understand that, the concept? Anyone not sure about that? That's what the correlation coefficient tells you. The higher it is, the more effect you can see that your independent variable has in your dependent variable. Back to this, all right? Now, that's what's happening here. Your 0.9496, it's a very high value. So that means experience is very strongly correlated to salary in a positive way, right? So that's what you got to interpret it that way. And the interpretation is very important. They would require you to do that. So how you'd interpret it, you would say, all you got to say is experience is strongly, and you would say positively as well. Positively, I'll explain that in a second. To salary. This is your interpretation. I wouldn't even say sorry, not even strongly. I would say very strong, because I'll give you the scales to determine what that's, how to know what's very strong and what's strong. All right. So what you need to know is anything above 0.9, right? So anything above 0.9, 0.9 and greater than that to 1. Remember your R, excuse me, your R can go as low as -1 and as high as 1. It can't go more than 1. So anything from 0.9 and above, that's very strong. right? From 0.8 to say 0.9, 0.9, we would say it's strong. Right? Then below that, let's say 0.5, 5 to 0.8. Here we say it's moderately strong. Strong. And anything lower than that is weak. Right? So that's the kind of scale you would use to interpret your correlation. From 0.9 to greater than that, which is what we have here, we say it's very strong. Okay, so it's a very strong positive correlation. Now, why I mentioned positive is because something can still be strongly correlated with salary, but in a negative way, right? Not everything is positively related to your Y variable. Let's look at another example, all right? Let's go here. Right. So let's say we can talk about fitness, right? Your fitness, right, versus the amount of exercise. Sorry, that's a bad example. Right? The amount of couch time, you have, right? So the more amount of time you sit on the couch, your fitness is going to drop. Right? I think most of us can agree on this, right? I know sounds like a silly example, but it's to give you an idea that something can negatively affect your Y variable. Okay, so the more amount of time you sit on the couch, the lower your fitness level, right? This is an example of something that's negatively correlated. And it can be strong. It can be a strong value. If you worked out the R value here, your R value could be negative 0.95. So it doesn't mean that it's weak because it's negative. It's just saying that it has a inverse relationship, right, to your Y variable. So here you would say the same thing. You would say amount of couch time, right, is very strongly uh, negatively correlated to fitness. I think you get the idea. Does everyone understand that example? Right, so I'm having a little trouble with my calculator. Yeah, Vitalia. I think what's probably happened is, right, maybe just redo it. Okay, so let me just talk you through it to redo it. All right. Press mode in your calculator. So you do it again. Press mode in your calculator. Choose option 2, and then choose the A plus BX. Right, choose the A plus BX option, which should be option 2 in your calculator. I think it should be option. That's what it is on mine, so it should be on yours same. But the A plus BX is the one you want. And when you do that, you have your X and Y. All right, so maybe just store your data again. Okay, please store your X values here, which is 52, 63, all the way to 77, and then store your Y values here. Store your Y values here, which is 381 all the way to 610. Right. Once you do that, just give me a heads up once you finish store everything. So the last value of Y that you should have is 610, and the last value of X you should have is 77. Let's check if there's a question. I'll show you the data again. Give me a second. Okay, so we'll go back here. So Vitalia, once you capture the data, just drop a note on the chat to let me know you've done that. It's going to clear the whiteboard. I've got one more thing to cover. it for this evening. So just give me a second. The last thing I want to cover is actually very, very simple to calculate. It's just the interpretation that's important. Let's say the tricky part. So I'll come back to the chat to see if you're done. I'm assuming you're still capturing it, okay? Okay, it's fine. Just maybe just unmute and just tell me you're done. I'm not hearing the text chats. You just unmute to say done. After it's pretty simple. Okay, for everyone else, what we're going to work on is the coefficient of determination. And that is simply your R squared. Talia, I will come back to you. I haven't forgotten about that. Your coefficient of determination, you won't be told what the formula is, but you need to remember that that is just your R raised to the power of 2. That's all it is. Now you've already worked out R. There it is. It's 0.9496. So R squared is just that value raised to the power of 2. So it's 0.9496. That's all it is. The same R value, but you raise it to the power of 2, and then you write it as a percent. And if you do that, you'll get a value of 90.19%. That's what the coefficient of determination is, right? Okay. And how you interpret it, well, all this value tells you is that that's the amount of variation of your y that can be explained by your x. In general, that is the interpretation. Now, ideally, you want this value to be high. The higher this value is, it means that this y value that you have can be predicted or explained by your x. So x is a good variable to explain y. The lower this r squared value is, then that means x isn't as effective as explaining y than it should be. The higher this can be, the better your x is explaining y. The most it can be is 100%. And if it's 100%, then that means your x is so good at explaining y, you don't really need anything else to predict what your y value is. So how you would interpret this is you would say 90.19% of the variation of your salary, which is your y, can be explained by experience in months. That's how you interpret it. I'm just going to come back to the chat. Have you finished capturing the data? You done? Then I have an extra row. Oh, if you got an extra row, go there and then just press delete on your calculator. Delete the values. That should get rid of it. Otherwise, you just can recapture it again. All right, so let me write down how you interpret it, okay? And this is the last part I want to cover for this session. All right, so how you'd interpret your coefficient of variation. All right, so you would say 90.19% of the variation, right, of annual salary, you'd always say your y variable, whatever it is. Don't just say y, you got to say what it is of your annual salary. Salary can be explained by the months of experience. That's it. That's how you interpret it. Oh, any questions? Vitalia, is it, so now when you, Vitalia, now when you press Shift 1, you should see the REG option. Okay, let me know if you do see it. Okay, any questions, everyone? All good? Anything you didn't understand? Any questions? I'm assuming it's a little trickier than the others. No problem. Yeah, but please just let me know if you have anything you're not sure about. If it's you're still not seeing it, that is very weird. You're pressing Shift 1 and you're not seeing the option REG. That I'm hearing. You have a Casio-FX82. Can you write your calculator model down in the chat? Type data edit. Okay, everyone, if you don't have any questions, you're welcome to drop off. I'm going to help Vitalia. Yeah, shit, 82. Oh wait, I've got the ZA. I'm wondering if that's the reason. Okay, so you did have the A plus. Let me go back to the one. You did have the option on your calculator that said A plus BX, right? Is that correct? No, what number was that option in your calculator? You can do it again if you want. So you can press mode and then clear the whiteboard. Okay. And we're not going to capture all the data. This time we're just going to check if your calculator is up to speed. Okay. I'm going to give you some dummy data to capture here. So we're going to have our X, we're going to have our Y. I'm just going to put 3 values, 1, 2, 3, and Y value is 12, 13, 14. Pretty simple. Right? That's the data we're going to work with. So you're going to press mode on your calculator, and you're going to choose stat, and then you're going to choose this option here. And once you've done that, and you see your X and Y column, so press mode, then press stat, then choose the option A plus BX. Tell me when you're there. Okay, all right, so you're there. All right, then for your X, okay, you're going to capture 1, right, under X, then you press equals to. Right, you're going to capture 1, then you're going to press equals to, then it will move to the next row, then you capture 2 and equals to, and do the same thing for 3. 1 equals 2, sorry. 2 equals to 3. 3 equals 2. All right, then you move the cursor to Y. Then you would have to move the cursor to your Y column. Move the cursor to your Y column in the first row. Right, move it up to the first row. All right, and then you're going to capture 12, and then press equals to. Then press 13 equals to. Tell me once you finish those 3 Y values. Right. So on your calculator, if you look at the left margin, you would see 3 is the last row you would have captured data. Shouldn't be anything more than that. Once you do that, you can press on your calculator.
Sorry, sir, can you hear me?
I can hear you now perfectly.
So after row 3, I have an extra row labeled row 4, and there's no values on X or Y, but when I click delete, the row doesn't go away.
No, don't worry about the rows. So what you do is, okay, press on your calculator.
Okay.
And then, okay, press shift.
Yes.
Then press 1.
Yes.
And what are you seeing, Reg, there?
Yes, I am. It's on number 5 for me. I didn't get this whole set of
Before.
options last time.
Okay, so now you got it.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so you sorted?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. All right, Christian.
Hi, Mr. Moodley. How are you?
Good, and you?
Good, good. My name is Batana Mbeki. I just recently joined um, this lecture. It's my first lesson. Actually, however, I had an issue with my registration. So I wanted to inform you. I think that's why I haven't been able to attend your previous lectures. And also that I'm behind on a lot of the ice tasks and everything. So I wanted to wait until the session was over before I inform you. And if it's possible, if you could help me get in touch or get a hold of the previous lessons so I can catch up.
Oh, so the previous lessons, it's very easy to access it. Okay, so I'm assuming you have access to ARC.
Yeah, I do.
If you are, okay, so when you are on ARC, all you do is, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the left, you'll see content. You click there, right?
Okay.
And then if you look on the left margin, it says module information. So click here.
Okay.
And then scroll down and you'll see it says online session recordings and live links. If you click there, it's got the links for all the recordings that's happened in the past.
Okay, that's perfect. That's
so you
perfect.
just gotta,
Yeah,
just click that, it'll take you to the recordings.
Yeah. And earlier on, I heard that you were talking about some assessment that needs to be submitted later than sooner. Is that like on a timetable? I'm very new to this platform, so I'm gonna need some time to figure it out before your next session.
So the ICE tasks, if you go here, there's 4 ICE tasks you need to do. If you scroll down, and you'll see it here in the ICE task folder, you click there, you'll see the 4 ICE tasks. So you still got plenty of time, because the first ICE task is due on 30th of April. So still,
okay, that's perfect.
Yeah. And then the others are due on 18th of May. So you still have time.
Okay, no, that's it. No, thank you, Mr. Moodley. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem at all.
Okay.
All right. Have a good evening. We'll chat soon.
Thank you, Mr. Moodley. You too. Cheers.
Cheers.